everybody. Welcome to another episode of Midas Letter Live. As always, I'm here with the venerable Ed Milewski. Ed, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Canopy came out with results.
Yeah, we have
Stocks
to get
up
right
a couple
into
bucks.
it. Yeah, Canopy Growth is provided the showstopper press release yesterday. Of course, they released earnings, quarterly earnings, which were, in my view, mostly good, especially on the revenue front in terms of retail sales here in Canada and internationally. I believe if you exclude excise tax, they came in around 84 million, I believe. With the excise tax, which with some of the portion can be added as revenue under IFRS, a small portion of that, it would have been about 97 million. So headline numbers were good. Headline revenues numbers were really good. Lots of growth there on the revenue side. The hockey stick curve is definitely happening with Canopy Growth. Of course, the net loss was, operational loss was quite big as expected. So I think overall, pretty positive. It's trading up today and it's doing quite well.
Not a good candle though, because it opened much higher and it's backed off and it's sort of a ambivalent red candle.
Ambivalent. This is a word you don't use often, Ed.
Certainly not in some of the places I hang around at night. Anyway, I look. The stock got as high as 66, currently 63.30. So it's come off $3 from its high.
Yep.
Where do you think they need to? Where do you think they need to? Has anybody said where do the revenues have to be for this company to make money, to throw off positive cash?
Well, exactly. And I think that's the big takeaway here, especially in the light of Aurora Cannabis earnings earlier in the week. In both cases, the hockey stick revenue curve has obviously transpired. I mean, growth is super high with both companies. I think Canopy Growth had a little bit higher revenue growth than Aurora this time around, but it's happening. I think the big takeaway for investors is, the obvious is sort of happening in terms of revenue growth. Margins are a little bit down on with both companies. But I think the biggest takeaway for me is that it's going to, even though the hockey stick curve is happening on the revenue side, it's going to take a lot more hockey stick to get to black positive net income numbers. So that's a work in progress. That's nothing unexpected in the marketplace, and I think we've seen two relatively benign reactions in both stocks, where investors aren't surprised by there was no surprises either upside or downside. For perhaps the revenue side with Canopy was surprised a little bit. It was a little bit came in higher than most expected, but other than that. I think there's not too many. There's no downside surprises that have really, impacted the stock, and the two relatively benign reactions overall.
Yeah, I don't like the reaction. Okay, I was going to say I really don't like the candle today. And especially as it came into those highs that we saw last month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more as the show went on. A very interesting thing happened today in terms of the key numbers in which to look at. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. Now, what's coming up on the show today? We're going to look at that. At 3:05, right after this avatar, we have Ricky Gerwitz with the headline news. 3:15, Robert Cheney, CEO of C21 Investments, joins us. Big Twitter sphere following on that one. 3:30, we have Socrates Rosenfeld, 2019 Cannabis Predictions. 3:45, Cannabis Weddings with Adamo Barbieri. 4:10, Gordon McKinnon comes on. He's the CEO of Canadian Orebodies. And finally, 4:28, we have bloopers, highlights, and lowlights. And with James West not here today, we have plenty of those, so you want to stick around with that. So we're going to go to Ricky with the news.
Thanks, Ben, and here are the headlines moving markets today. Canopy Growth Corporation has announced it has earned $74.86 million in Q3 as the company released its quarterly financial results ending on December 31st, 2018. Canopy's operating expenses totaled $169 million with a total other income of $235 million. The company also reported gross sales of $98 million in the quarter. Canopy sold 10,102 kilograms of pot and equivalents during the fiscal third quarter. Aphria Inc. announced that its board of directors has accepted and considered the report of the Special Committee of Independent Directors. This committee reviewed the allegations made against the company in respect of their previously completed acquisition of LATAM Holdings Inc., and they concluded the assets acquired in Argentina, Colombia, and Jamaica were verified to be in place and continue to be developed according to the company's business plan, consistent with Aphria's previous public disclosure. Comprehensive in-person site reviews confirmed the existence of LATAM assets and operations in each of Colombia and Jamaica, as well as work to confirm the contractual and permitting arrangements in Argentina. And the consideration paid for the assets was determined to be within an acceptable range as compared to similar acquisitions by competitors, be it near the top of the range of observable valuation metrics. In the normal course of business and on an annual basis, the company will assess the carrying value of the acquired assets. Village Farms International has been approved by the NASDAQ exchange list to register its common shares on NASDAQ Capital Market under the symbol VFF. And CanAmerica Brands Corp. has entered into a letter of intent to provide an exclusive license to manufacture and distribute CanAmerica Brands branded CBD-infused products in Europe with Winchester MD Limited. Winchester is a Europe-based arm's-length entity that retails online under the brand Hemp Elf. Canna Royalty Corp. announced that the company has signed a memorandum of understanding to take over the exclusive distribution of Curvana products across Northern California. The agreement terminates Curvana's distribution arrangements with other third-party distributors in that region. Curvana is the leading premium vape pen brand in California and currently ranked as the 5th one brand in revenue overall in the state. And that's your news for today.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for Ricky with the news there. She does a great job as always. Now, getting back into the Canopy growth story today. Ed, you were talking about how you didn't like the candle.
Well, let's put the chart up. I got a 3-month chart up here.
You bring up the chart? Okay.
There it is. And let's just take a look at this move here that started, I guess it started back in mid-December, or sorry, mid-January. Started here, it was monster move. We've sort of rolled over, came down to a level here, 56, and since then, into this report, very nice rise. What I don't like about the candle is that it started much higher, and it backed out, went much lower, and now it's rallied, but not as much, hence it's red. In other words, it's below where it opened, and quite a bit so. But what I want to, I may throw this out and say, it looks like they may have trouble getting through this resistance here that ended in February. So that's all I'm saying. If it gets through it, great.
Yep.
If it doesn't, if it's having trouble the next few days and starts to come down and we get below here, of course that's going to be very negative. Anyway.
Well, just to provide a little bit more granular coverage on that, I tweeted out this morning that to break the downtrend, or perhaps more accurately, the consolidation phase of this recent impulse, 47.89 would be a key result on Canopy Growth. It'd be a key result. That was basically the high stretching back to February 7th, right? So if you got above that marker, that was a clear pivot point.
Is that in the U.S.?
That's in the U.S., on the U.S. side.
Okay.
So if it hit that clear pivot point, which is about, for viewers here on the Canadian side, around 63.5 on the Canadian side. So if it were to get up above that pivot point, you could pretty much conclusively say on the hourly that the downward impulse would have been done. So we had a very interesting thing happen this morning. Canopy Growth just shot up like a rocket, maybe $3.50 on the Canadian side, and almost $50 on the U.S. side. And then it just, it came right down, heavy profit taking, brought it all the way down about $3.50, $4 on the U.S. side. So quite a bit of profit taking, and there's been sort of a battle in between that key pivot point at around 63.50 Canadian or 47.89 U.S. And right now it's basically right there. Let's see where we're at.
Yeah, right now it's up. Sorry, back to what you're saying. It was up $4 at one point.
It was up $4 at one point. Yeah. Screamed up, and then there was some round of profit taking. I think that just goes back to the nature of the report, the benign nature of the earnings report, which saw a lot of good things, a lot of increased revenue on the domestic side, domestic flower sales, but not everything was perfectly in line with margins. We saw the same thing with Aurora, and that's something that we're going to look for going forward. So right now it's a battle, and right now it looks like the bulls are starting to win out. It's starting to inch closer above that key level, and if it can close above that, then next week could be starting off the week on right.
The other thing I noted on my, I have a page of weed stocks that I follow, and I rank them, much like we do with the indices. The biggest winner today that I could see is up about 7%, which is a big move. But we're used to seeing 10s, 15s, 20s, and there's a lot of moves, plus or minus 1 or 2 or 3%. So maybe a little later in the show we can look at the Midas Letter, some of the indices, and just
and compare what moved, what didn't move.
Dissect them a bit.
Now, did you see the news in Aphria today, Ed? They came out with their pseudo line-by-line rebuttal. I think it was a rebuttal that allowed them to turn the page, to close the door on the recent on Hindenburg's report, which was released December 3rd. It wasn't quite of the line-by-line variety, but I didn't think it had to be. I think the company, actors such as Scotiabank, Haywood Securities, Citron Research, and others did a really good job in defending the company, and to the point where they didn't even need to issue a line-by-line rebuttal and go through the 30 or 40 salient points that Hindenburg brought up. So the stock reacted positively to that today, and again, I think it's a little bit below that key swing level on the U.S. and American side. So it looks like
it's got the same candle, by the way. The same. It's a red candle, big wick, big tail, and a fairly large body. So same looking candle. So maybe they're moving together. Maybe the big Canadian stocks they gapped up, pulled back sharply, and trying to get going, but not running out of.
They're moving in tandem. Yeah, is that Aphria we have up there? It is, Edward. So
that's and so we see the melt up here. Sorry.
So we're looking at daily, correct?
Yeah, this is 3 months again. 3 months. Yeah. 3 months. So look, it's had a big move. It was down to $5 back in here when that report came out, and got up to $14.40. That is mind-boggling considering how negative that report was. Yeah. So obviously the report, in my estimation, wasn't very accurate.
And it wasn't. And I think Deloitte has the final say today. They came out, third-party analyzer came out and basically sided with the company on this. All the LATAM purchases and Caribbean purchases appear to be above board and within fair valuation. So I think this is great news for investors in that it turns the page. Maybe not quite the line-by-line rebuttal that was promised, but I don't think it had to be. And furthermore, it was probably something that was sort of promised in haste, 2-3 days after the report that, with class action lawsuits in the background that didn't really need to happen. The company didn't need this, and it's having a positive day. Should point out too that, at least based on the chart I'm looking at here, that the stock is about $3 higher. Sorry, $3 higher than it was when that report came out. Yep. So market's saying, hey, we maybe we're not back to anywhere where we were, but we're back up there. Yep, they can finally, I think, move on to bigger and better things. So join us on the line right now. We have the CEO of C21 Investments, Mr. Robert Cheney. Robert.
C21 Investments Inc. is a vertically integrated cannabis company that cultivates, processes, and distributes cannabis and hemp-derived consumer products in the United States. With newly acquired operations in Oregon, C21's strategy is to acquire existing cannabis operations with management teams in place. The company's focus is to expand where it can wholly own indoor or outdoor cultivation operations, processing and extraction facilities, bakeries, branded products, and retail dispensaries with a large distribution network. C21 Investments Inc. is headquartered in Vancouver and trades on the CSC under the ticker symbol CXXI.
Hey, Ben.
Now we join Mr. Robert Cheney, CEO of C21 Investments. Robert, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Great. Now, I want to get right into some of the questions that we have here. Can you tell us what the current situation regarding your U.S. listing is, Robert? I understand that you did have a U.S. listing before, and it is currently not active. Can you tell us the situation with that and how you plan on regaining listing if that's in the cards?
Okay, so we've filed our 40F registration statement. That's been accepted. The lawyers are working on activating the trading symbol. It should be very shortly. We were delayed by the government shutdown. So now that that's over, it should be put in place quite soon. We'll start with the symbol activated. We'll file for DTC, and then we will list on OTCQB.
Great. Now, pivoting to some of your assets in the U.S., can you tell us, will the Silver State Relief and Phantom Farms revenues show up on your income statement in the next quarter? And additionally, do you have any plans for additional Silver State dispensaries, which, to my understanding, are doing pretty well right now?
Right. So our financial year end is January 31st. So we will have the Silver State, the Phantom, the Pure Green, and the EcoFirma revenues in Q1. Our Swell processing acquisition should close in March, and so part of their revenues will also show up in Q1. In Nevada, we have an amazing vertically integrated business, and clearly the value of that business is not really being understood by the market or investors completely at this point. We have two of the finest dispensaries in the state, including the #1 dispensary in the state with 21 cash registers. We're serving approximately 50,000 customers a month at the current rate. It's a significant revenue producing business, and those revenues will show up in Q1.
Now, you alluded to the fact that you have tremendous cash producing businesses, but you're significantly undervalued at this stage of the game. Now, it's my understanding that a lot of people feel that way, anecdotally at least, that you're a deep value play. Now, why do you feel that your company is undervalued, and what measures are you taking to remedy that on the marketing side to get your messaging out?
Well, I do think investors, because we hadn't closed our deals, so because of that, we didn't have any analyst coverage. And we weren't ranked in any of the rankings because we didn't own the facilities that we'd signed up. There's a few key reasons our stock, I think, has started to appreciate. One is that we closed our financing for $14.888 million in one of the difficult periods historically in the market. We've also closed, as I said, our key acquisitions, including the Nevada acquisition. That removes significant uncertainty from the market for investors. I think investors are starting to understand that we have the tightest cap table in the industry. So we have no 1 cent shares, no 2 cent shares, no promoter shares. So we have a very, very clean cap table. The locked up value of the Nevada assets, if we compare it to the November 13th acquisition by GTI of a very, very similar package of assets in Nevada, at today's share price, they paid 455 million Canadian dollars, 340 million plus US dollars for a package of assets that C21 paid $50 million for. They got 95,000 square feet of licensed cultivation and processing. We got 155,000 square feet. Our dispensaries are clearly the premier dispensaries in the state. So if you look at the share price and you look at the cap table, investors do not understand this, I don't think, at this point. We're expecting to get some analyst coverage now, and I think the fact that we'll be reporting revenues and EBITDA in the coming quarters, and that we'll be expanding further with our branded consumer packaged goods, is going to drive investor interest. So we do think that the share price should start to reflect all of these factors.
Robert, Ed Milewski here.
Hey, Ed.
How many? Just to remind the viewers, how many shares are there outstanding right now?
Right now, there are 62 million shares outstanding. We have no, as I say, we have no hidden classes of convertible shares.
Right.
So we have a very, very disciplined operation. Our acquisitions have been very disciplined. And the key point here is our major shareholders, including myself, I've never sold a share of this company since the day it was listed. Sonny Newman, my partner in Nevada, my partners in Phantom and Swell, they are my largest shareholders. And they're working with me day to day to build this into the premier cannabis company in the world. So they're all long.
So Robert, are you cashed up and ready for the acquisition arms race that's going on with producers down south right now? It seems like everybody, you have to have a war chest in this expansionary phase of the cycle to really keep up. Are you cashed up? And if not, what plans do you have to do so?
Well, obviously the liquidity in the market, you guys were just talking about the Aphria report. So post December, the market conditions have improved significantly. Given that we now have a large revenue and cash producing business in the United States, we're exploring debt facility opportunities because our team, which is a very, very professional team, is focused on building a business. We're not doing a stock promotion. So as I've constantly said to people, we will be disciplined. So I want to protect my cap table. So we're focused on debt opportunities, but we'll also look at equity opportunities if they're strategic and they make sense. In acquisitions, we do not blow our brains out. So we look for strategic acquisitions. We look to get them at a fair valuation that will reflect value to my shareholders and investors on a long-term basis.
Hey, Robert, Ed here again. So are you allowed to comment as to what you think the revenues will be, say, over the next 12 months, approximately? Can you give a range, or are you precluded from doing that?
Yeah, we're not really allowed. In our news releases, we've given investors the trailing revenues for the businesses that we're acquiring. So if you look at the trailing revenues, we will be doing somewhere in the range of 50 to 70 million Canadian in top line revenue, assuming the markets stay consistent. We are looking for expansion opportunities, obviously, and we are expanding our Oregon brands into Nevada currently, and building out a stronger brand presence in Nevada. We are also actively developing plans to expand our brands into California, and we're looking at expanding CBD brands as open market brands now that the hemp farm bill has passed. So there are significant growth opportunities in front of us. The key is we have a disciplined team. We have great brands that can be leveraged when we have exceptional proven expertise in the business. These guys have been running these businesses for 10 years. They're not newbies. And I think if you take an analyst like John Kaga, who spoke recently about the importance of vertical integration, companies like C21 are starting to be really sought after and appreciated, because vertical integration gives you margin protection, it gives you brand presence, brand consistency, and proven management means you don't blow your brains out. So I think investor focus is turning to consumer packaged goods, brand value, and proven management teams, and C21 has all of those.
Yes, certainly it would appear that your based on the number of shares you have and your market capitalization, yeah, your sales look, and I've looked at a number of companies in the marijuana space. It looks like you're about as low as there is. So it's quite an inexpensive company.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Ed, if you look at revenue per share in 2019, I would be surprised if C21 wasn't the number one company in the sector.
Yeah.
We are going to generate a lot of revenue per share. I'm very, very disciplined on costs, so you won't see lawsuits over private jets or anything in C21. We run a very, very tight team. We're focused on creating value for shareholders. I put my money into this company at $1 a share, and I'm not selling a share. So the value's there, the team is there, and as you pointed out, there's more revenue per share in C21 than any company in the sector, I believe.
And Robert, finally, getting back to your financing question, you mentioned that you're open to procuring banking financing or a debt facility to expand your operations. Now, this week, I believe we saw Village Farms and another small operator receive a debt facility as well, which was sort of a first in the industry. It had been basically reserved for the top tier companies in the space. Now, the question is, can you receive that debt facility? Do you think you can obtain it now, or do you have to wait for banking reform in the U.S. To pass in order to try to get that debt facility?
There have been some fairly large debt facilities done in the U.S. already, primarily with family offices. But the landscape is changing very, very rapidly, and we are seeing federally regulated institutions looking seriously at the space. So we believe it is a near-term opportunity. We're working on it now, and we think it's realistic in the current environment. Somebody in the United States will front-run the market, just like the Bank of Montreal did in Canada, and we'd love that to be a C21 transaction. So that's what we're working on. So hopefully news coming.
All right, a terrific update. Thanks for joining us, Robert. We look forward to following your story going forward.
Thanks, Robert.
Well, thanks for having me, and I hope all of your viewers and listeners will take a look at C21. We're a great company.
All right, so long, Robert. So what do you think, Ed? I've been hearing more things over the past few weeks about this company being very undervalued relative to peers. So that's my big takeaway right now, and it seems so. Lots of good revenues coming in.
If you're telling me he's doing 50, 60, 70 million potentially, and
on a 50 market cap, not fully diluted, maybe 60 fully diluted.
Listen, this is as cheap as I've seen in the space. Now there's bigger, but and if he's buying shares himself at $1, and right now they're $1.
$1.10?
$1.11 today. It looks $1.13, up 3 cents. 250,000 shares. Someone will, and not only that, this is a takeout candidate. Now I don't know what the structure is in terms of insider holdings, et cetera, but if you got a good revenue base and you start throwing off cash and you're relatively cheap, you are not going to stay that way for long in this sector.
Yeah, I agree. So much. So you have either the consolidation front, where they're going to be an attractive acquisition candidate for companies looking to build at good valuation, or valuation could just build organically with the share price going up.
We've had a couple of conversations here with people this week, and somebody was saying that some of the companies in this space are trading at 20 times revenue. 20 times revenue. And this is 1 times revenue.
Well, if you look at some companies, obviously that's going to change as the quarters go along. But I mean, some companies are trading at over 100. So, they're trading at 1 times revenue.
Look at it. I just see it going by at $1.15, up another 2 cents. Anyway, that's right. Wrong company. CXXI. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to have a hard look, and I may call up Robert, have a chat with him, see if I can't glean any more information.
Absolutely. And I can see why the interest is quite...
and not a lot of shares, and he says a lot of things that sophisticated investors look for, like cap table and making sure that there's not a lot of like the early guys haven't bought a lot of stock at a tenth of a cent, et cetera, et cetera.
Fiscal discipline. So it hits all the right notes. To be honest, I don't know too much about the company at this point, but it's definitely something I'll be diving into a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we should.
Absolutely.
All right.
So coming up soon, we're going to have Socrates Rosenfeld, the CEO of Jane Technologies. They are a cannabis platform, private cannabis platform, where you can buy various kinds of marijuana, cannabis, and accessories. So that's coming up relatively soon, in about a minute. Ed, do you want to revisit anything?
Yeah, I want to take a look at the gold chart, only because I noticed yesterday morning it was looking kind of weak, and you were saying it looked kind of weak, and it was. And then somebody said something about some kind of trade talks or something, and that made the U.S. market fall, although that's recovered, and yet gold has kept going up. Like, we're not talking major moves here. So let me put that chart up.
Enough to break out of a channel, though.
Well, here, look at. No, let's put up the 6 month. So we got a 6 month chart of the big ETF, which it tracks it almost perfectly, and this is like a whoops. Don't want to do that. Just a minute. You got to be careful what you do with these computers. But look at this. If you just think about this chart, this is almost. It started, back here at the bottom of the bottom left corner, and it's at the top right hand corner. So it's almost a 45 degree. Not exactly, but that's pretty steady.
Yeah, there's an overarching uptrend on the daily. That big pivot is that low there.
You think it's going to have trouble getting through there? I mean, it's back in here now, so it's almost there, but maybe that's a little double top. I like what I smell. Like, there's a lot of big guys in the States like this that don't normally buy gold that are saying maybe time to look at it.
Yeah, it's definitely bullish. The daily chart is definitely bullish. It broke out of a consolidation pattern, February consolidation pattern, to the upside in a pretty clear way. So the start of next week looks pretty good. We shall see. We'll keep monitoring the situation.
We shall see.
We shall see.
Okay.
Right now, we are, as promised, we are going to Socrates Rosenfeld. He is the CEO of Jane Technologies, a private cannabis platform which sells cannabis and accessories. Socrates, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Benjamin. Really appreciate it. Great to be on.
Yeah, you bet.
I got to ask you, how's Aristotle doing? Just kidding.
You know what? When we find him, I'll let you know.
Now, my first question pertains to the platform. Now, can you tell us what is unique and different about it, and why cannabis consumers would want to go to the Jane Technologies platform as opposed to the OCS or whatever platform they reside in provincially?
Yeah, absolutely. So really what it boils down to is we try to make shopping online for cannabis, at least here in the United States, as simple and as straightforward as shopping online for just about everything else in this world. So if you look at the other online marketplaces that exist in this world, call it Amazon for any other retail item, Grubhub, for instance, for ordering from restaurants. Airbnb is a great example for when you want to find a place to stay for the weekend. The consumer has purchasing power every step of the way. So to use Amazon as a natural example, the last item you purchased on Amazon, you probably typed in a search term as broad or as specific as you would want. You were able to curate down that search, be recommended products based on how other people just like you are shopping. And then ultimately you had the purchasing power to compare by price, read reviews from actual validated, verified consumers, and then make a purchase from a local or a seller of your choice. Ultimately, you become almost a pseudo subject matter expert in a matter of minutes on the retail item or the restaurant or the apartment building that you're looking to stay in, and that's the shopping experience that we're able to provide here in the U.S.
Okay, do you have a value add service where you provide delivery to your consumer, where they can not only purchase the bud but get it delivered within the same day as opposed to waiting through the post?
Oh, absolutely. So in the States, as you know, each disparate state market has different regulations around delivery. In a state like California, for instance, where delivery is available, what we do now is we enable brick and mortar stores to fulfill the order via delivery. So we have fulfillment software that works with other fleet management solutions. So again, it just goes back to providing the consumer with as much optionality, with as much purchasing power as possible, so that if there is a consumer who says, hey, only show me the products that can actually get delivered to my home, we enable that. And just to be clear, we don't ourselves fulfill the last mile, meaning we don't have drivers that take the product and deliver it, but we certainly enable those brick and mortar dispensaries to fulfill, where it's legal, the online orders that want to be delivered to their home, and we do so with relative ease.
So who's your primary competition right now, and are you located in Canada, or are you just specifically a U.S. platform currently?
Right now, we're specifically in the United States. We're headquartered in Santa Cruz, California. In terms of direct competition, there's really no direct competitor that we've come across, meaning there is no true online marketplace that allows the consumer to do a byproduct search and compare other like sellers against that single product. That being said, obviously, those that are operating in the e-commerce space are ones that we consider to be indirect competitors. And we segment the market in three separate ways. One, we call is the Yelp model. This is your static directory listing. Out there, there are some more older software companies that have a directory listing of certain dispensaries or certain products, but there's no real-time integration. There's no automation of e-commerce. So really, we compete quite nicely against the quote-unquote Yelp model. The other model that we compete with quite well is what we call actually the Shopify model. And for that really is, if you think about what Shopify has been done, it's a great company, and I know it was founded up in Canada. They provide e-commerce more for the direct-to-consumer model, where if you're, if I'm a craftsman and I sell beer koozies, for instance, I would love to use a Shopify plugin on my website and be able to just automate e-commerce direct to consumer. Why that doesn't necessarily apply so well down here in the United States is that there's a lot of brick and mortar stores. And in the United States, product turnover is 40% week to week, which is quite astounding. So if you think about it, the products that you're seeing on a store shelf at any given dispensary in the US, 4 out of 10 of those products won't be the exact same the next week. And so product turnover is extremely a significant variable in the equation of creating a well-oiled machine that is, operating at the dispensary. And what we provide now is full automation, meaning every single product that's in your inventory system is in real time showing up on your online menu. And then vice versa, if a customer, orders a bunch of product and that inventory goes below a certain safety stock or inventory zero, it'll automatically be removed from that online menu. So we do things quite differently than the indirect competitors that we mentioned, but I think there's definitely room for other e-commerce solutions. We do what we do, and we think we do it quite well.
Okay, so what are your plans for going public, if you have any, if any? Right now, of course, you're a private enterprise, and I'm assuming that will be dependent on your capital requirement needs, whether you can raise enough privately through the venture capital channels, or expand elsewhere, and then have to deal with the disclosures and everything that goes along with the capital markets, the expenses. So where are you at right now in terms of expansion, and do you foresee perhaps filing an IPO at some point to increase your expansionary ambitions?
Great question. So for us, really, it's our immediate focus is to grow our footprint in a sustainable manner. And right now, we've done a great job at expanding our footprint. We now have become the fastest growing and largest B2C marketplace, online marketplace here in the cannabis industry in the U.S., with over 600 dispensaries utilizing our software across 21 state markets, and that's been accomplished in about 20 months. So right now, we are built, and we consider ourselves as a fast growth tech company. We have had no real need yet to go to the public markets. There's a significant interest among the private investment base here in the US and quite frankly, globally, interested in our software as it can scale in a very sustainable way and has proven to be successful so far, at least in the past 20 months. That being said, though, in my opinion, cannabis is the fastest growing industry across the world. And for us, we want to be having a seat at the table, not only here in the US or Canada, but also in Europe, in Asia, perhaps. And as a software company, we're afforded the opportunity to move quite quickly. And if that's the case, and we do see opportunities, we will seek to accelerate our growth through funding, whether that's through the public markets or private.
Sounds like a great story, Socrates. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my path to the cannabis industry is unique in the sense that I actually never consumed cannabis for much of my adult life. I was in the U.S. Army for my 20s. I got out of the military after deploying to Iraq. And I don't say cannabis saved my life, but I certainly say it has changed my life. And after talking to so many of my military friends and hearing very similar stories of how cannabis was able to help them, we decided to go and build something that can provide safe, legitimate, accountable access to this plant and this product for others like me and others, hopefully, in Canada and across the world. I think in Canada, they do an unbelievable job, and one that here in the U.S. we're looking at to replicate, hopefully, of taking care of their veteran population and allowing them to have access to this medicine to help them reintegrate into society and heal.
Very good.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic platform. It's a story that we're going to keep watching going forward, and we hope that you eventually end up, on the north side of the border, and users will have accessibility here. So we'll be following your story going forward. Thank you so much for joining the program.
Thanks very much, guys. Pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Ed, thoughts?
Well, you know what? I mean, I'll tell you, we've said this before, but people that generally are in the military are very disciplined. They're very disciplined, and they do quite well in business, because it's about repetition, it's about organization, it's about getting up early, and
They were told repeatedly how bad they were, right? So they got disciplined.
And they also they do things for other people. Like the real I think people that accomplish a lot, they do it for their team, right?
Yeah,
it's a team. It's always about the team, and that's the in the military. It's the
camaraderie.
Yeah, but it's the platoon, or it's the squadron, or it's the group.
Yeah, they're very good at team building.
And here's a guy, and they got software. I obviously it's private, so he doesn't have to talk about numbers, but I bet you, we're going to hear about this down the road. Someone's going to take them out. And he's probably going to make himself a fortune doing it.
He's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, he seems like a very
well-spoken individual.
Well-spoken, determined, and growing quickly.
Yeah, we're
technology, I guess, does allow you to do that, right? To some degree.
Yeah, well, I guess he's in California too, so he's pretty close to the Silicon Valley VC funding crowd. So perhaps they can stay private for a long time and build up their platform, and perhaps they won't need to go to the public markets. But we'll have to follow the story as it transpires.
Okay.
So next up, we are going to make a splash at weddings. Adamo Barbieri has more.
Matrimony. Tying the knot? The old ball and chain. That's right, we're talking about weddings.
Yeah, the idea of going to a wedding, I mean, is everybody really that happy going to a wedding?
Maybe not, Ed. But how would you feel if the wedding incorporated cannabis throughout its entire day?
Yeah, why not? If the people feel good about it, I don't really mind.
How would you feel about attending a wedding that had a cannabis bar?
Who cares?
Who cares? Yeah, not a fan?
Doesn't really matter.
How do you think the older generations at the wedding would feel about it?
Do they have to know?
Never been to a wedding where there's free cannabis, but if someone wants me to attend their wedding, let's have some free cannabis. I'll be there.
Now, we're not just talking about your guests bringing weed to your wedding. In fact, this coming March, there's the first ever Canadian Cannabis Wedding Expo happening in Calgary. So I sat down with one of the founders to understand how we can incorporate cannabis within our wedding days.
When people think, cannabis weddings, I'm sure they just think about smoking. How else can you incorporate cannabis within a wedding?
Oh, lots of different ways. So, basically, the consumption is one thing, but a big thing is in the floral arrangements. In the bouquet, you can incorporate buds or the cannabis leaves or cuttings. Brides and grooms can gift the cannabis to their guests.
Using the flower aside, there are even hemp wedding dresses being made for your special day.
For this expo in Calgary, it's our first one. So we got about 35 different vendors. We have a couple of retailers, we have florists, we have cake makers, we have some topical companies, we have some cannabis-friendly venues, hotels that are on board, and just anybody that's kind of open to the idea of having cannabis. The overall goal is just to help drop the stigma of what cannabis has, and people use cannabis in their everyday lives, and we feel that at a wedding or a special event, people should be able to consume that as well.
For Midas Letter Live, I'm Adamo Barbieri.
Welcome back, everybody. That was a great segment. I'm actually hoping that, I'm trying to convince James that perhaps to have a wedding ceremony here on set. We can have sort of like a shotgun Vegas-style wedding here. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but we'll see what happens.
Isn't the term shotgun, isn't that usually referred to a wedding where
it's against your will?
Well, yeah, somebody...
I hope you don't get married against your will. You don't want to do that.
The father is saying to the groom, if you don't marry her, I'm going to shoot you.
Yeah.
I think that's what it means, right? Because
I think so. I think so.
There's
I think it's like an old West Virginian thing.
A surprise is coming.
I think so. I think it's like
not a surprise, but anyway.
It's a forced union against your will. I think that's a term.
Yeah, but it's because maybe the bride's with child.
Bride's with child, or
she's
already hooked up.
No. Anyway, we got to be careful what you say. I don't want to get medicate the wedding cake, and it'll be a lit party. There you go. Somebody that's good. That's good.
All right, so we're going to shift gears here to some more action in the public markets today, in the Canadian public markets, specifically Chiron. Now,
the chart's going to be up here in a minute.
I just bring up the chart. I just saw the ticker go by right now. Chiron Life Sciences
that's
looks like it's going to.
Let's put up a 1 year. There's a 1 year chart. So look,
it's going to close above $3, which is right near the high, right, Ed?
If it closes above 3, that's a new closing high. The all-time high was 313. The volume dropped off here quite a bit back in here. Stop. Oh, jeez. No, what the heck did I do?
Technical difficulties?
No, we're good. We're good. I just...
Either way, the price action is extraordinarily strong. We're talking, the uptrend has resumed. It's about, 25 cents off the all-time high. Amazing order flow. Amazing order flow since those two press releases earlier this month.
So the chart's back up here, but we had major volume, fell off, and I was thinking, it looks like a bit of a spike and maybe could pull back further, but it got very quiet. And one of the things you don't want to do is short a dull market. It got dull in here, and it just started to build. And look we're on our way to closing at an all-time, not an all-time high, but a closing high. And if we take out that 313, more blue sky.
I really hope investors heeded the message. We really liked Chiron Life Sciences for quite a while. We continue to talk about it even after association ceased. I still like it. I would caution investors that I'm not a big proponent of buying on bullish impulses. I like, as we talked about previously on the show, I'm a big proponent of buy it when it bleeds. The BOB technique, unless you're swinging a position for a few days. So investors can make their own call, but they definitely have differentiator properties and a differentiator business model in Latin America that I think is going to be a hit. And speaking of acquisition candidates, you were saying C21 Investments could be as such. I've long hypothesized that Chiron Life Sciences might be the perfect acquisition candidate because of their patient model. Clinician model is a little bit different than others.
And they seem to be in an area that doesn't overwhelmed with competition. Like I don't think there's a lot of people that have got that kind of footprint in Central South America, Mexico, and the board. The top people.
Well, I mean, there's other LPs. The big LPs are all there now. Aphria, Canopy, Aurora, they're all there right now. Even Wayland is there, but they don't have that same model. They're growing cannabis, and they want to be distributors of it, and they're getting into some of the ancillary products. But to my knowledge, no public Canadian company has that clinician model where they're focusing on the patients. Chiron Life Sciences, they're going to grow their own cannabis. They're going to be vertically integrated, but they're not going to grow, a vast amount of it to export and to sell dry flower at $2 a gram down there. They're in it for patients. They're in for high margin capture through that clinician model. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Very strong.
I'm going to put up a chart here of Crown Mining, which is a company that I own it's substantial to me. It may not be substantial to anybody else, but it traded 11 cents today, and that's the first time it's traded 11 cents. You know what?
What's the scoop on Crown?
Why is this not working here? This is the same time it didn't. Hold on.
So the ticker for those at home, CWM on the venture.
Okay, just a minute. ZWM.CA. Yeah, I'm going to put up a shorter term chart. I've been involved in this over a year. I know Steve done quite well.
Not much activity yet.
Not much activity, but it's already moved about 3 cents from 8. You could have bought a lot here at 8 cents. Today it's trading at 11. And that's how these things start. And we're going into PDAC. Little base there. It based in here too, and a little slightly lower. So we had to move. We had to come back. So we've got a sort of hopefully a W formation. And it's very tight. And copper. The story about copper doesn't go away because you need copper to transfer energy. And whether you do it with the petro oil or wind or solar, you still need copper.
So, yeah, there doesn't appear to be much activity. So I think that's just more of a macro play on copper, right? You're going to have to wait for that. That's between an 8 and 12 cent range over the last, 3 months. So you have to wait on that.
It's been as high as 13 and a half. You know what? I've been involved in this thing. It was at 27 cents at PDAC. If something were to happen, if somebody wants to buy a big deposit, because it has a deposit, it's not like they got to drill it. I think there may be some plans to do some drilling down the road. Small, micro, $4.5 million market cap. $4.5 million. Yeah, and it's got a deposit. So okay. Anything else you want me to look at? Let's look at the S&P 500.
Go back to the S&P.
That's I think that's very important. Trump's been in the news a lot.
Did you hear that he declared an emergency today for the wall? So they're gonna throw funds at that wall come hell or high water. It looks like.
You know what? I tell you, this is it's a bit of a look from where I sit. I would have never thought the wall would have gotten built, but it may get built. Maybe it's going to start to get built.
Yeah, well, the wall is not going to get built with the funds that are being released all the way across the border. So it's only going to be a portion of it, maybe 50 miles, I think. So I don't know how effective that's going to be, but we'll see.
So back to the S&P. We got a 6-month chart up here showing, the high, which I think is.
You know what? Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, after the S&P, I was thinking that we should look at Village Farms. That's been a huge mover lately.
Okay,
it's up 19%.
Just make one comment here. This is the line I'm looking at that I think there's a line there, and sometimes whoever draws the line uses their own little license to make it look to suit their goal. I just think if it gets through that line, we're obviously going to test the highs. And we're getting close, ladies and gentlemen. I would have never believed that we'd be here after what we saw here. So anything is possible. And if you think something isn't possible in this business, you're going to soon part with your money. So be careful what you bet on. Cut your losses quickly, right?
And the viewers better believe that because Ed is an old broker. He's been in the business for a long time. How long have you been in the business,
And
Ed?
remember, the
40
broker
years?
you know, the broker you get. So yeah, I started in, I think I got my license. It was either January of 78 or January of 79.
You actually need a license back then? I know you need a license now. I know licensing is...
You know, with all the compliance issues and everything, believe me when I tell you this, if you got an order from a new client and say the first week of the month, you didn't have to get the paperwork in until the end of the month. You could let that order sit there. The client wouldn't get billed. It was
really so many things you couldn't get away with now, right?
You can't listen.
You can't get away with that now, obviously.
Look, it's unbelievable. The difference in compliance is mind-boggling. In fact, for old guys that are so used to so many things, you get to the point and say, "I'm out of here. I can't do this anymore." You got to fill out a book to get an account open with a full service broker.
Back then, was the IIROC even there, or was it?
Well, there was you know, look at, I don't even know how to spell my name back then. Like, and the other thing is, you know, the commissions. You know what the commissions structure was? $15 minimum ticket, and basically you got a third. And not now, if you get a discount broker, you're charging 10, so it's gone sort of full circle. But you have to do all the work at a discount broker.
Yeah.
You know, there's no advice, no anything. Yeah, it's such a different world. You know. Anyway, that's
the evolution of the capital markets.
That's 40.
Here in Canada,
that's
right?
40 years ago. 40 years ago. So.
Wow.
And the company I was working for had just moved into the Royal Bank building, which was just being built. Royal Bank Plaza. Anyway,
it's amazing.
So
a lot of experience behind that insight. So perhaps you can use some of that to look at Village Farms International.
And the ticker is?
The ticker is VFF on Toronto. Now, I think they're going to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange soon, or down south. And they've been a big beneficiary of analyst coverage, which sort of started getting the ball rolling a little bit earlier on. And it's been moving like gangbusters. So we're talking like 150% move, maybe somewhere close to that. Not exactly sure.
This obviously isn't in my list because this is much bigger than a 7% move. This is about a 15 to 17% move.
19% move.
Okay,
currently.
sorry.
Now from the bottom, we're looking at like 150%. It's been one of the biggest movers this year. Crazy move.
Yeah, so
even more than that, actually.
Well, look where it was in December. Okay.
Yeah.
About $4.
$4.
And now $11. $4 to 11. This space is almost as high as some of those gold stocks we were talking about.
Yeah.
That's a joke. Anyway, look at that. 4 to 11. I mean,
look at that move today. Just right off that perfect symmetrical technical setup.
Is something getting taken out here? You think is there something going on that this is? Has there been news to justify this?
You know what? I don't think so. I don't know of anything specifically. I know that there was analyst coverage that recommended it earlier on. It was sort of on the momentum train. There might have been positive news flow late in January that started the momentum. And I believe they got a listing, dual listing approval. I think it was the New York Stock Exchange, but it's just been, sentiment. It had been one of those stocks that people considered it undervalued because they have huge capacity in Texas. The Farm Bill helped, of course, because they should be a beneficiary of that. Big capacity. They're partnered with Emerald Health, and it just, that momentum has just continued.
So somebody answer that phone. Hey, in control tower there, it's for you guys. So look, is this, now you say it was undervalued, and obviously it was undervalued, but maybe it wasn't so obvious. Is this another CXXI, another Village Farms? Hey, there's a question for you.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have a chat on Sunday.
We should.
Talk about, maybe this CXXI is
it's the next Village Farms. Maybe.
Look, when you got a revenue base that big, and let's say you can throw off $10 million in EBITDA on a $50 or $60 million revenue base, Yeah, you could easily say the stock should double from here in this space.
Well, in this early growth space, yeah. I mean, it seems sort of out of line with the forward revenues that other firms are trading at. Again, I don't know too much about C21 Investments right now. I know more about Village Farms, and I know that they've long been considered undervalued, and perhaps that valuation is catching up right now with the dual stock listing, with the positive analyst coverage, and other things going on with the company. So,
yeah, I quickly put up a 2-year chart of Village Farms. This thing 2 years ago was trading at $1.50. It had a monster move, but look, I want to point out here to the viewers. So we had the first sort of move, and then an exponential move, and then look at that consolidation, and then you break out of that pattern, which is around $8, so 8 to 11. So if you can get a setup that you like, a breakout, I'd say that's a bona fide breakout. And look at that volume.
Bona fide breakout. Isn't that through the highs, actually? We're looking at, what is Village Farms about? Almost 11.
Oh, yeah, it's well through. Well, that's well through the highs. The highs are here, yeah. The highs were $9.
Wow.
And then look at that. Look at that volatility, though. Look at that volatility.
Amazing move.
And maybe, just starting to look like a breakdown, and then the shorts got smoked.
That's what they call a bear trap. And I know this is one of Todd Harrison's, one of his positions at CB Capital One. So congratulations to Todd and to owners of Village Farms. It's a great mover. And who knows where it's going to stop. Because right now this would be considered technically blue sky breakout territory. You got huge volume. You got a 19% move through the highs. Yeah. So,
but would you wait for a little pullback here if you're going to, would you step in right here? Like, that's the question. That's the hard part, right? Because if you don't step in, maybe you don't get it. So maybe you put in a quarter of what you're going to invest, and then wait for a little pullback, put a little more in.
This is where I think your investment threshold and tolerance has a lot to do with it. Now, if it's me personally, I would not personally buy here because I'm not comfortable buying on these sort of breakouts, because I don't like, because obviously the inevitable pullback, I don't like to hold at loss. Right. Especially on a breakout, because who knows if it consolidates back to 7 or 8 eventually. Like all cannabis stocks, it has a history of pretty steep pullbacks. So I wouldn't want to be personally holding at 11 or 12 and then holding through the pullback and then having to hold maybe dead money. But other people with a more long-term view, like Todd Harrison, who's great for that, and why I love listening to him, is if you look at a 5-year horizon, right? Village Farms, could be a $50 stock, or some people have very high hopes on it, and you may not, care that you just see it breaking out and you're going to buy here. And if you have the dedication to hold it, to hold through the news, then you're probably fine. If you have the capital to hold through the drawdowns, then it might be for you.
Are they doing business exclusively in the United States, or are they an international company? Well, wait a minute. It says Village Farms International. Maybe there's your clue.
There's
just saying.
Yeah, no, they're heavily. They got some pretty heavy production capacity in Texas. I know, so they're a huge beneficiary of the Farm Bill. And I'm not sure if they have operations here in Canada. Actually, it's not a stock I've covered extensively.
Yeah, so if you'd have bought this at Christmas, you would be getting your next Christmas pretty early.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great move. Great move. It's been one of the biggest movers this year. So congratulations to Village Farms investors.
Yeah. I wonder if Village Farms is run by the village people.
I wonder if they do that at their Christmas party. Just hire the village people for the Village Farms. That might be,
I thought they were a great band. The YMCA and.
Yeah, it's great. A lot of people like them.
Yeah.
Now, up next, Ed will be speaking to the CEO of Canadian Orebodies.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
You're gonna speak to him.
Canadian Orebodies is a Canadian-based mineral exploration company with a portfolio of properties in Ontario and Nunavut. The company is focused on generating shareholder value through the advancement of its 2 Hemlo area projects, Wire Lake and the North Limb. Canadian Orebodies Inc. trades on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol CORE.
Joining me today, Gordon McKinnon. Gordon McKinnon is the CEO of Canadian Orebodies, ticker CORE, aptly named.
Appropriate.
Very appropriate. And Gord, there's a bit of history in the mining business in your family. I think I'd like to point out that your father founded the famous Hemlo gold mine. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. My father was a very influential person in the mining space.
Sure.
Hemlo was one of his biggest claims to fame, which at the time was the largest gold discovery in Canada. It's produced well over 20 million ounces, and it's Barrick's only Canadian asset, and it's still continuing on.
Wow. So you have this company, and I understand you have a very sizable land position.
Yes, yeah. We ended up going back into the Hemlo camp.
So this is where you are?
Yeah.
Isn't that, you'd call it a camp?
Yeah, so okay. We're back in the Hemlo district, made famous by my father. There was a little bit of hesitation to do this, but I was encouraged by some of our large shareholders to get back in here, because obviously trying to follow up on what my father did is a tough shoe to fill. So.
Is it something like they say, if you want to find gold, go where gold has been found before?
Yeah, the shadow of a head frame saying always comes out, right? And Hemlo is very unique. Typically in a greenstone belt that has a mine that produces over 20 million ounces, there's always other discoveries that are made. And Hemlo is like this anomaly that there's been nothing else found besides the original discovery.
Right.
But we believe that it's just for a lack of exploration. You need, more companies needed to go back and take a harder look. It got this reputation that it is an anomaly and there's nothing else, really in that camp. But we're coming back here to show otherwise. And it wasn't our intention to be the largest landholder in the Hemlo camp, but now we are. We have well in excess of 30,000 hectares.
Yeah, that's a big land position.
Yeah.
So you've got this land. Now tell me, I think you told me there's roughly 55 million shares.
Yep.
Fully diluted. Your stock's trading around 30 cents, so your market cap
16, 17 million.
Yeah. Which is, there's a lot of these things out there that are trading 3 or 4 million, but you've got some pretty impressive list of major shareholders.
Yeah, we're fortunate for a company of our size to have a roster of shareholders that we do. We have less than 10 people that control over 75% of our stock. So the stock doesn't trade that well, but it also primes us for a discovery. Like if we have another major hit, there's no stock for sale. So you get to see these things move pretty quickly.
You can sort of blow on it and it'll move, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
But you have to. Now, so how many major shareholders do you have? Would you say 3, 4?
Well, so just with management alone, that's over 17% interest there.
Right.
Then we have Rob Cheney from Northfield Capital, very famous.
Famous guy.
Sold his Gold Eagle mine for $1.5 billion, and he's our largest shareholder. Then we also have groups like Cisco Mining as 12% shareholder.
Sean Rosen, I guess.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And then guys like Rob McEwen, Rick Rule.
Rob McEwen's his name's all over hospitals in Toronto.
Yeah. So like I say, we're for a company of our size, we've attracted quite the
you
roster.
Sort of put together the A team.
Yes. In terms of shareholders and in terms of our management and the project evaluation team as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Now you did some drilling last year.
Yeah, so we went back to the historic Super G, which was known as a narrow, high-grade vein system, but it was always looked at as just this one little narrow, high-grade vein. So what we went back here in our last program, we put just a few holes in there. We were able to show that this now looks like a greenstone-hosted gold vein system. So it's not just the one high-grade vein. We're looking at multiple veins, and we hit multiple veins in the drilling that we did there. We have the Marks vein, the Discovery vein, and the Super G vein. And in the drilling that we did last year, we were able to extend mineralization by 25 meters down plunge, and the widths got better and the grades got better.
There's a map there. I mean, and it's over here as well. So
Yeah, so we were able to hit 133, grams per ton over 2 meters, but that also included, 0.6 of 443 grams per ton.
Bonanza gold.
Yeah, some pretty spectacular stuff.
Yeah. So now we're going to follow up on that.
That's correct. So what we're looking at doing here now. So with the success.
When will that? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when will you start drilling that?
So we're looking to follow up on this starting next week. Drilling what we've been.
It's very targeted then.
Yes, it is. And what we've done over the last month is we've been up there building ice pads on Smoke Lake because ultimately the best angles to target this thing are off the lake, and this has never been done before in this camp on this target, and so that's what we're going to be doing this year starting next week. We're also going to be drilling holes off the land, but several of the targets or the targeting techniques that we need to do that off the lake.
We cover a lot of marijuana companies in this show, and Smoke Lake would be a nice tie-in. Anyway, so drilling's going to start.
Yeah, so news will be coming here. We'll be drilling starting next week. We should be wrapped up by early March, and then it'll just be waiting for the assays, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks after that.
How deep will you go?
We're not going to be going too deep here. It's just
obviously the closer you find at the surface, the more economic it becomes.
That's correct. But with grades of over 400 grams per ton, that's something that.
So is this a Great Bear lookalike? Would you say?
It's it has characteristics to Great Bear. I would say a better analogy may be Amex. And that's a story that's getting a lot of love.
I listen. I bumped into Victor Cantori about a month and a half ago, and he said this is hot off the press. Yeah. That it looks like they're onto something.
Yeah, and
the stock was 20 cents. Today it hit 95.
And that's a prime example. It's just we're fortunate to have the shareholder base we have, but we don't have a retail following really.
Well, and, maybe we can help you change that.
Yeah, well, I would hope getting our name out here and with the upcoming drilling and results will hopefully provide that and get it out to a wider audience, because at the market cap that we're at, and we see these other companies that are putting out almost.
Great Bear is what? Is it 150 million market cap right now?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no. And again, high grade, narrow intercepts, but they also have some wider stuff. But the Amex story is very good because they have the narrow high grade, and then they also have this low grade system. Because besides Smoke Lake, we also have Wire Lake, which is over 3 kilometers already historically. It's got 100 holes in there, but it's lower grade mineralization. But the mineralization is consistent over that entire 3 kilometer strike length. And what we're actually trying to do here with Smoke Lake and Wire Lake,
tie it in.
Yeah, is that we're through geochemistry right now, we're trying to get a signature on both of those and show that they're part of the same system. And if that's the case, which we believe it is, that would extend the system over 5 kilometers, and then also show that high grade is possible all along that 5 kilometers. We just need to figure out how to target it.
Right.
So that's
without spending a lot of money.
Exactly. So that's what we're doing with all this geochemistry work here right now. Is trying to show that, and then trying to figure out how we're going to be able to hone in on and target that high grade along that trend.
Yeah, well, you're obviously very enthusiastic, and
Well, we're very excited about what we have, and we want to bring other people into the story, because we just believe it's very cheap. We're well funded. We don't need to go back to the market.
And the enemy of a shareholder is dilution, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So you've obviously been a good steward, and that you've kept the dilution down.
Yeah, we try to do that, and finance at highs if possible, and we've always been fortunate to have a continual backing and always been able to raise money. So we've never been we never let the company try to get down too low in the treasury. So
Now I've looked at a lot of things over the years. I'm 40 years basically in this business. I have an accounting background. I've made a lot of mistakes. There's a checklist that I sort of have that before I'm getting involved in anything, I'm not going to, and again, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, for me, I want to see good structure. I want to see good shareholders, and
I think we tick those boxes.
And land in the right jurisdiction.
Yeah, the camp we're in, the Hemlo camp, is infamous for Hemlo as well. And that's what I also believe is why we were able to attract the group of people that we did. Is because it's prime for discovery. You know, if there is a major discovery here, if we're able to be successful in this next round of drilling, and you know, continue on what we found from the drilling last year, you know, I believe that you know, we'd be lighting a wick for, you know, for a big boom here.
So let me just one other maybe a couple questions here, and we'll wrap it up. But so when do you think you'll get some results from this drilling program? Will we be towards April 1st?
Yeah,
we don't want any April Fool's jokes.
No, we won't be looking for April Fools, but I would imagine by the end of March or early April we should have results.
Yeah, good. And anything else you want to add?
No, the news flow here is gonna. So it's not, you know, we're not a story where, you know, people are going to be jumping in here and you know, there's going to be no information coming for a while. We're going to be drilling next week. We're going to have those results, and then we're going to be right into our summer exploration, which is our busiest time. So you know, the news flow is going to be consistent.
Yeah, I wish I wasn't getting so old, because I forget things. Anyway, look, it was great having you here, Gordon. We're going to have you again to keep us posted.
No, definitely. I'd love to come back.
Yeah, for sure. And this, you know, we're going to probably we'll keep in touch, and we'll see what happens.
All right, I appreciate that.
Okay?
Thank you, Ed.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Yep.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Colin.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Ed, what is your thoughts on Canadian Orebodies? Where do you see it going?
Well, you know, a couple things. Like, they've already found some. There's evidence of gold. It's in the Hemlo camp. The shareholders. I'm going to put up a chart here. The shareholders, the main shareholders here, they get up to 75-80% of the stock very quickly. I know some friends of mine, Steve Dunn over at Crown, he owns quite a bit of this stock, and he says, you know, you just, it's hard to buy. Yeah, you know what? If they have a successful drilling program here the next month, and start pulling similar holes to what they have pulled, and they start tying this together, it could easily get to 50 million market cap, which would be a triple. Okay, close to $1, and like Great Bear and you know, Amex is there.
So how far are they away from an NI 43101 compliant resource? Is that I'm assuming that's kind of far away from that, right?
You know what? That may be relevant. It may not be relevant, and I'm not trying to, because I don't know the answer to that question. But I do know they're in the Hemlo camp, and Barrick's main asset, only asset in Canada, is that mine his father founded that's still producing, and produced over 20 million ounces. 20 million ounces.
Yeah, so they're in the area, and they got good associations. So
and you know, like, they've got major guys that can write checks. Like Rick Rule is another major shareholder. Rick Rule is another one of these legendary guys. Like, I think he sold his business to Sprott for some number like maybe 50 million or 100 million or 200 million. Like, we're talking about guys that can write checks. Rob Cudney, another legendary guy. These guys, I mean, it trades kind of like an institutional ownership, and that's because those guys are sort of institutions unto themselves. But if they start to sniff, the thing's going to ramp up fast.
Well, we've seen in the last over the last 3 or 4 months how Eric Sprott has got into some of these private placements after good drilling programs. Sockman Iron, I believe, was one. RNX, Royal Gold, I believe he got into that too.
You know, Eric is, you know, I know him not well, but he's legendary. He's, you know, financial guy and very successful. You know, they guys like smaller guys like me that go in, get in, and try to guess where these guys are going to go, right? If you can bring in some other big guys after you've already, it starts to move. You know, like we were talking about Amex at 30 cents, and it's now 90 cents. That's
and
a triple.
and the thing that makes mining junior mining stocks tough, in my opinion, is that most of the time no one sees it coming. So you can have almost like a biotech stock. You can have the stock do nothing for 2 years, sort of grind down, and then boom, a good hole comes up, it's up 100%, 150%. Sometimes these things move just on the fact that the drilling program's starting, right? So you have these big moves. No one gets in because they don't want to wait for it. And then when you do it, then you have to make a decision. Once it's up 200% in that day, you have to make a decision. Do I buy the gap up, or is it sort of a one-day wonder? Right?
So here we are. This thing has been around quite a while. I'm just going to look here.
It's done nothing on the daily for a while, right?
No, it hasn't.
It's gone up a little bit.
Well, here, we're, this is 2 years. So just to give a 2-year perspective, it's been as high as 60 cents. Again, keep in mind that these shareholders are the A team, at least in reputation. I have no reason to believe that they're not in this for the long haul. And now you've got, pattern. There was a downward trend, a little bit of rally, another downward trend, but you can construe this to be a big base. And here we are, right around here. And if there's a sniff of something good that can make this look like more than a one vein wonder, and maybe my terminology isn't.
Ed, can I ask you what exactly that picture are you depicting on the left-hand side there? What do you call that picture?
Which one?
It looks like an eye, an inverted eye. Or it could be something else. So I don't know what you're thinking, Ed. Thought I'd throw it out there.
All right. You know what? You know what I'm going to do?
Maybe you want to draw a different depiction next time.
Okay.
I joke, of course. Sorry, Ed, go ahead with your thoughts.
So look, you can look at this as saying this is being accumulated, and whether 30 to 60, that's not the move. This is about, and these guys are going to target. They're using as much technology as they can to try and find it. So look,
how big is the drilling program again?
It's not that big. I mean, these guys aren't going to spend a lot of money because they don't want to have to raise money. They want to use as little money as possible. I think they're. You know what? I didn't ask the question. So I should have had you in the interview so you could have asked it. Because you're thinking.
But as long as I guess they want to prove out the ore body, but they're fiscally responsible, right? They're not one of those mining types that keeps diluting forever.
Look, exactly. And dilution is enemy. I mean, look, you get into some of these. If when things get quiet, you don't want a lot of shares because once the thing settles down to a level, that's when you start hearing shareholders say, well, maybe we should roll it back. Clean it up a bit again.
Now, is there anything else in this space? So with the junior miners, the explorers that are a little bit far away from producing, any other ones you like?
Well, they're all like I'll put up this one here. This is one that we mentioned. I think it's
AMX or no?
Well, I'll put up AMX in a minute, but Great Bear Resources down 13 cents, stayed at 381. Now look at that chart.
Wow.
And so they've made some discoveries, but want to point it out again. Not a lot of shares outstanding.
What's the float on that one?
40 million shares.
Oh, that's it.
That's
okay.
It.
So it doesn't take much with these floaters. Sort of like C21 Investments, get back to the cannabis space.
Exactly.
Only 61 million shares outstanding.
This thing moved in 5 minutes.
Well, it's my understanding, just looking at going back to C21 Investments for a second, that the share price had quite a big performance at the end of the day. So that could be a byproduct of the low float count combined with some very targeted and focused moves, setting itself up for a pretty good beginning next week. So we congratulate investors out there, but you were saying at Big Bear, same sort of move, right? Where you
Great Bear.
You get momentum.
No, GBR, Great Bear Resources. Yeah.
Great Bear.
And Amex, another one that moved from when I heard about it 20 odd cents to in the low 90s. Again,
what's the float on that one?
About 40 million.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, and this one's got about 50 million, but it has a much bigger land package, I think. And again, that may not be relevant because they say a mine can be found on a half a claim, and claims aren't very big. They've got 30,000 hectares. So anyway, the weekend, here we are. Are we heading into bloopers?
I think Ed wants to end the show.
I don't really want to end. I have so much fun talking to my friend Ben.
But happy hour is here early on Friday, so
happy hour. We're going to be happier.
We're going to be happier. So, so we're going to go to the bloopers. Coming up next week.
And James is going to be back.
James is back on the show as well. He takes over next week. I go back to my usual financial writing prowess, which is probably my specialty. Hopefully I filled in adequately for James this week. So coming up next week, we have Jeff Master from the Tinley Beverage Company. Lots to talk about CannAbev in the CannAbev space. Edibles upcoming in the fourth quarter of this year, so that's going to be an interesting conversation. We have Tony Di Benedetto from Drone Delivery Canada. Be interesting to see how drones will take place and how what the timelines on that before they are allowed by regulations. We have Trevor Fencott from Fire and Flower. We also have Raj Grover from High Tide Inc. They have associations with Aurora Cannabis. George Robinson from RavenQuest Bio Inc. He comes back and revisits us on the show. And finally, Anthony Holler from Ceneva Inc. He was my first ever co-interview with James, I believe. Had no idea what was going on then. I probably still don't, some can argue, but hopefully I'm working out the kinks. I wrote on Ceneva on Thursday. They just guided for the year. Investors seem to like it. They were up about 13% yesterday, about flattish today. Ed, final thoughts?
Yeah, I was talking to Brandon yesterday, and I think he mentioned Ceneva, and he said he's looking at that. We had the chart up. It looks like it might want to pop. What's the ticker there?
SNN on the CSE. A lot of people, this has a following because they have a lot. I would put Ceneva in the same category as a Wayland in a way. I mean, of course, Wayland has way more international assets, but they're one of those companies that has a lot of pieces. They have a good cultivation facility. They're involved in California. A little bit of cash flow issues prevented them from building out in the BC and the Delta of the BC. And there are some setbacks there, but they have a lot of pieces. And it's going to be an interesting one to watch because when they start generating revenue and becoming cash flow positive, it's going to solve some of their hemorrhaging, which they had to get. They had to borrow money at 10% interest and things like that. So that is something to watch. I don't know if it's quite ready now. We'll have to see, but its time is coming. It's a very interesting play if they can turn it around and value proposition. It's another one with a fairly low share count in the space.
Share count, I think, is important, and especially early on. When you need to show some action. Action attracts eyes attract money.
Exactly. So on that note, we're going to end the show. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Again, James West is back next week, and we look forward to having the master in the chair. Hopefully we filled in adequately. Have a great weekend, and here are the bloopers.
Just seems like we were here yesterday.
In fact, we were.
If you just look at Europe, say, look at big cities like France, Germany, Russia, Canada, and you got a big wick. I'm back.
It's back.
My back is right there. Before I smoked pot, I thought, I'd never want to be like a co-host on a show. And I've smoked a lot of pot, and now I'm a co-host on a show. I don't have a lot of friends, but that's another story.
They have differentiator qualities to them.
Do you ever think the plant life, the plant world will ever evolve to the point where you just see like a tomato just hanging in the sky by itself?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What will they be attached to? I'm a chief economist of my own firm, and there's only one employee, and that's me. So I went into a dispensary recently to pick up a joint, one joint, maybe
just
two or three.
One pre-roll?
Maybe 5. Your liver's going to be healthier, but your lungs probably won't be.
You can't have your cake and eat it too, right? You got to pick one or the other.
My problem is I got liver problems and lung problems. Here, I'm gonna get high.
That's one way of doing it, right?
Yeah, that's not very much fun.
Profit, boom. There you go. And it explodes, of course. Always explodes. Always. It's pretty white, eh?
Always.
That's pretty white of us.
Is it white?
Did it explode? I've never seen people of color.
Well, I do that all the time with kids.
Do you? Yeah. What?
Let me tell you about this one, baby.
Oh, that's disgusting. Yeah, that was gross.
With its sugary blue balls, with its sugary blueberry flavor.
How do you say blueberry?
Blueberry.
It's blueberry.
Blueberry. Well, we can fucking banter back and forth that after. Let me finish, fuckface. With its sugary blueberry. Fuck, I can't say it. With its sugary blueberry. How do you say blueberry?
It's blueberry.
Blueberry.
I don't know what that is. You're missing letters.